Brooke Hogan has now stepped forward with a heart laid bare, finally finding the courage to speak in the wake of her father Hulk Hogan's passing, a seismic event that didn't just rattle the foundations of WWE but sent shockwaves through the very soul of pop culture itself. In a world accustomed to polished press releases, carefully managed social media statements, and public relations filters, Brooke chose something far more powerful: authenticity. She didn't deliver her message from a stage or behind a podium. Instead, she recorded a quiet video late one evening from the comfort of her Nashville home, with no makeup, no lighting setup, no background music, just a single lamp illuminating the face of a daughter whose world had just collapsed. Her voice, trembling and unsteady, carried the weight of not just personal loss but the collective grief of millions who had grown up idolizing the immortal one. The moment she began speaking, you could feel the heartbreak crawling through every syllable. She didn't talk about the fame, the legacy, the arenas filled with chants of Hogan. Hogan. Instead, she started with something simple. Something personal. "My dad wasn't just Hulk Hogan," she whispered, her eyes glassy. "He was my dad. He was the guy who used to make pancakes every Sunday, who called me Berkey even when I was grown, who used to sneak candy into my backpack before I went to school." These weren't anecdotes crafted for headlines, these were memories ripped straight from the pages of a daughter's heart. She described the conflict she often felt growing up in the shadow of such an enormous legacy, the longing for time with her father that was often stolen by pay-per-view events, fan signings, and never-ending road tours. "There were nights I just wanted him to be home. Not Hulk Hogan, just Dad," she admitted through tears. But even in that admission, there was no anger. Only reverence. She spoke with compassion about how her father gave everything to his fans and how, only now, in his absence, she truly understood why he did. "He didn't just belong to us. He belonged to every child who ever believed in him, to every fan who needed someone strong to believe in." As her words echoed across the digital world, the video took on a life of its own. It didn't just go viral, it became a digital vigil. Fans from every corner of the globe flooded the comments with their own stories. From old-school wrestling diehards to young fans who discovered Hulk through YouTube clips and action figures, each comment was a candle lit in digital solidarity. "We lost a hero. You lost a father. And somehow, you're comforting us," one user wrote. Another posted, "I didn't cry until Brooke spoke. That's when it hit me, he's really gone." But Brooke didn't just stop at one video. In the days that followed, she quietly began appearing at small fan-organized memorials. Not for the cameras or the press. For the people. At a makeshift candlelight vigil outside Hogan's beach shop in Clearwater, Florida, she arrived unannounced, wearing a black hoodie and jeans, trying to blend in with the crowd. But there was no mistaking her presence. A hush fell over the gathering as she walked among the crowd, helping light candles, placing roses near handwritten signs, kneeling in front of a portrait of her father. One elderly man approached her and handed her a photo of himself standing next to Hogan at WrestleMania 3. She held the frame gently, looked the man in the eyes, and whispered, "Thank you for loving my dad." Witnesses said it was one of the most emotional moments of the night, and that not a single person present had dry eyes. Back in Nashville, she remains surrounded by a tight circle of loved ones, friends who say she's been journaling daily and combing through home videos, some of which she may eventually release in a tribute film. She's not ready to say goodbye, one friend confided. She wants to share the man the world didn't see, the one who sang off-key in the kitchen, who danced to 80s rock in the car, who never hung up the phone without saying, "I love you, Brookie." One especially moving memory she shared was about a heartbreak she experienced years ago. She had locked herself in her room, devastated, drowning in sadness. Then suddenly, from downstairs, she heard the opening chords of her dad's entrance music, the iconic theme song booming through the house. Furious, she stormed out, only to find her father in full Hogan gear, yellow tank top, feather boa, sunglasses, flexing like he was about to cut a promo. "You didn't think I'd let heartbreak beat you, did you, brother?" he said with a grin. She laughed through her tears then, and again while retelling the story. That was him, ridiculous, over the top, but always full of heart. "He could make me laugh even when I thought I'd never smile again." In recent days, Brooke has turned her grief into something tangible, a mission. She's in the process of launching the Hulk Hogan Legacy Project, a foundation dedicated to helping children of public figures and at-risk youth struggling with identity, mental health, and grief. "My dad always wanted to give back. He knew what it meant to fall, to be broken, and to get back up again. He wanted kids to know they weren't alone. The foundation will include mentorship programs, counseling support, and creative arts therapy, all rooted in the values Hulk lived by: perseverance, self-belief, and strength through struggle. This gives me purpose, Brooke says. Something beautiful can come from pain. And I think he'd be proud of that. But the healing process isn't linear. There are still days where she collapses under the weight of the loss. Days where she can't bring herself to get dressed. Days where she catches a glimpse of her reflection and sees his face in hers. She's been candid about those moments. Grief doesn't ask permission, it just shows up. In a song, in the smell of his cologne, in the silence where his laugh used to be. At a recent WWE SmackDown event, she stood backstage watching a powerful tribute montage play on the big screen. The lights dimmed, and the entire arena echoed with chants of Hogan, Hogan, as old clips played, body slams, promos, triumphs, tears. Then, in a flash, the screen faded to black with the words, "Forever immortal. Forever our hero." Brooke stood alone in the shadows, arms folded tightly, face streaked with tears. She felt her knees weaken. But then, like a whispered memory, she heard his voice in her head, "Keep going, Berkey." So she did. After the show, several WWE superstars approached her in quiet moments of solidarity. Roman Reigns hugged her and said, "He paved the road for all of us." Bianca Belair handed her a handwritten letter. Cody Rhodes looked her in the eyes and told her, "Your dad didn't just change the business. He made it." These weren't scripted moments. They were unscripted acts of love and respect from a community that had been shaped by her father and now stood with his daughter. Brooke has also started discussions with WWE about producing a documentary, not just a celebration of Hogan's achievements but a full portrait of the man. The battles with fame, the controversies, the regrets, the reconciliations. He wasn't perfect, she often repeats. But he was honest about that. And that's what makes his story beautiful. The family is also planning a private burial, far from the eyes of the media. Brooke has made it clear, some moments are sacred. Some pieces of her father belong only to those who loved him before the fame and after the spotlight faded, but in between those private moments, she's still sharing fragments of her journey. One story she recently posted was about a final conversation in the hospital. Hogan, frail but still fighting, grabbed her hand and said, "Don't worry about me, Brookie. I've body slammed life more times than I can count. I'm ready for my next match." Those words have become scripture for the millions who saw him as their childhood hero. Across the world, tributes have taken many forms. A mural in Brazil, a fan-made comic in Japan, a sand sculpture in Australia, each one a global heartbeat echoing the love for a man who inspired generations. But none of those tributes, none of the murals, the chants, or the viral posts, mean more than the quiet gestures. Like the 5-year-old who drew Hulk Hogan with angel wings. Or the grandmother who wrote Brooke a letter about how Hogan inspired her bullied grandson to stand tall. Brooke keeps all of it in a box by her bed labeled, "Dad's Love." She says when the grief becomes too heavy to carry, she reads one letter, holds one drawing, and reminds herself, he's still here. In all of them, in all of us. She recently returned to her father's old training facility. The place was closed to the public, but a friend let her in. She walked barefoot on the mats, placed her hand on the ropes he once held, and whispered a silent prayer. There was no crowd, no camera, just a daughter searching for echoes. And in that stillness, she found them. She's considering creating a digital wall of remembrance, a place where fans can share stories, art, and memories of Hulk Hogan. He wasn't perfect, she repeats, but he showed up. He fought, he made people believe. And now, in the echo of his silence, it's Brooke who's helping the world believe again. Believe in healing, in family, in legacy, in carrying forward when the person who once carried you is no longer there to lean on. Because grief may be the final chapter, but love is the epilogue that never ends. At a recent WWE event, Brooke stood backstage during a memorial segment dedicated to her father. As the arena darkened, thousands of fans chanted, "Hogan, Hogan," while a tribute video played. The screen faded with the words, "Forever the immortal. Forever our hero." And in that moment, Brooke felt the wave of collective mourning surround her. She cried silently in the shadows, then straightened her shoulders and whispered, "Keep going, Berkey." Later, she was embraced by Roman Reigns, comforted by Bianca Belair, and honored by Cody Rhodes, who told her, "Your dad didn't just change the business. He made it." Brooke is now in talks with WWE to co-produce a documentary about her father, one that won't just show the glitz and glory, but the real man behind the legend. The ups, the downs, the truth. She wants the world to see him as she did, not as a superhero, but as a deeply human man who fought hard, fell harder, and still kept going. As private burial plans unfold, Brooke remains clear that some parts of her father's life are meant to stay sacred. The world can have the Hulkster. But Terry Bollea, her dad, that's someone she'll hold quietly in her heart forever. She remembers his final days vividly, filled with jokes, hope, and love. Even when the doctors were grim, he smiled and said, "Don't worry about me, Brookie. I've body-slammed life enough times. I'm ready for my next match." It was pure Hogan, fearless, funny, and full of heart. Across the globe, fans have responded in their own ways: murals, tribute matches, fan art, and messages poured into her inbox. One child drew Hulk Hogan with angel wings. Another sent a voice note saying, "Thank you for helping my dad believe in himself." Brooke keeps all these in a box labeled, "Dad's Love." When the grief is too much, she opens it. She reads a letter or holds a photo. She smiles through tears. And she remembers that even in loss, her father's presence still runs wild in the hearts of millions. He wasn't perfect, but he never stopped showing up. For wrestling, for fans, and most importantly, for her. And now, in this new chapter, Brooke Hogan carries forward the weight of a legacy while piecing together her own healing, memory by memory, breath by breath.